Okay, we should be good to go. Sorry, I just updated my Mac and um it looks so weird. For one, the whole format changed. It looks like Windows 11, so minimalistic. Happy April Fool's Day. I hope you enjoyed the day. I certainly did with DC News now. Um, the big thing is, well, I was busy. I've been out and about. I've been putting gas and I've been doing some crap. So this just happened. I'm gonna recap some of the events and then we'll proceed with the guests. Apparently something happened with the DOS. Um, Apparently blocking. And forgive me if I'm wrong with this. I'm just reading this for the first time. The DOS is immediately ordering Paladin Defense Solutions and its Blackwater proponent to cease and desist all international operations and business dealings with foreign nations, foreign nationals, and foreign organizations. Um, this is in regards to the merger between Blackwater and Paladin. Um, we will have 103 join us shortly. We also have a statement from Alex J. Cabot Jr., GPT, who's the Deputy Secretary of State, who says, and I quote, "The Department's official comment on the matter is that we will continue to take any actions necessary involving adherence national security actions against Paladin if they wish to operate on an international scale without interference from the Department of State or the United States government. If SGMs that something involving group management has an issue with with the execution of foreign policy taken by the U.S. government, they should directly mediate the matter with the government entities responsible for it, not tyrannically overstep and attempt to unilaterally control government functions and role play. We will not be hearing to GM overstep and will continue to reserve our right to craft, mold, and execute foreign policy per our constitutionally charged rights and duties." So the war and feud between the GMs and not the GMs, but the government, GMs, and Paladin continues. Joining us right now over the phone is the leader of Paladin, 103115. Good evening to you.
Hello, Mr. John. Sorry, I'm sick, so if I sound off, that's why.
Don't worry. I'm dealing with something over here in the household too, so you're not alone. I had to pick up.
If
Suck.
you want, I'll give a very brief statement and then I'll answer any questions you have, if that
Do
works.
yeah, do that. Do that.
So, since PDS, Paladine, was formed, we've been in talks with Blackwater on assuming their operations under us, and earlier today, the merger went through, and Blackwater is ceasing to exist within the next 48 hours, and all employees have been invited into PDS. Now, um, we're registered with the United Nations as a multi-task force security agency. Um, we have the paramilitary role because that's the only role they have for organizations that are any sort not criminal in their Discord. But we're registered as a security company both here and internationally. A big thing in that document was the use of United States arms and weapons. We do not use United States arms and weapons. And as SGM Dillon said, if they want to go on this tangent, if they could provide proof that we are using U.S. arms and weapons, that would be amazing, because we are currently not.
so you're not using USM weapons, and that's what you think is causing this whole situation.
It's that, and it's the fact that George, as he's always been, he's scared.
How do you mean scared?
You have this opposing force that is unaligned with him that, has a majority of former military special operations. We're at 80 employees, we're more active than USM, and we have in a sense, we have SGM backing, and I guess that at the end of the day scares him that there's this entity, this third-party entity that he really has no control or oversight over.
I do want to note that there is a deal being worked out between Paladin and FTN in regard to an advertising deal.
There is.
I'm not gonna comment more on that other than the advertisements will not appear on any graphics or programs that involve a report about Paladin. So just letting you
Mhm.
know, in the interest of full transparency and full
Yeah.
disclosure, that there is an ad campaign in the works. Um, So I want to talk to you about the merger very briefly. You did confirm that there
Before.
was a merger with what's their name? Blackwater Defense.
Yeah, so Blackwater Defense was one of the first security agencies here within the Senate grew, but there was just some troubles with activity and lack of ability of time among leadership. So I've been very close with SWAT for a while, over a year. We all know each other, and so a mutual third party approached both of us, and we were all very keen on it, and it was pretty easy. It was a sink line hooker to go through.
Hmm. So what will this merger bring essentially?
So this merger will bring a bigger sense of cooperative security for those that hire us, if it be domestically or internationally. And, at this point in time, we're even in conversation with the new MPD chief to work out possibility of joint assistance if needed, to provide security if they get overrun and need help. We are working with other businesses on possible security contracts because that is ultimately our goal to provide security for individuals, businesses, and organizations that cannot provide security for themselves. And so this merger gives us a bigger opportunity to do that on a much wider scale because it gives us much more manpower and resources.
Okay. I understand that Rick is joining us. Do you have any
Hmm.
comment to say, or
Hmm?
do you have any comments,
Uh,
or are you just here to?
I no, I'm just here.
Mm, okay. Let's take audience questions now. Raise your hands and talk if you have any questions in regards to this. We're hopefully getting a DOS spokesperson in here, but unfortunately, none are available. I do want to mention that the Deputy Secretary of State will be addressing the media tomorrow in regards to that matter, but I will reiterate the statement they had earlier. That they're just going to continue to take any actions necessary involving adheres national security actions against Bladden if, quote, they continue to wish to operate on an international scale without interface from the Department of State or the U.S. government. He also said something about the about group management. Apparently, we will not be adhering to the GM overstep and will continue to reserve our right to craft, mold, and execute foreign policy per our constitutionally charged rights and services. So I know there's a GM in here. If you have a statement, read it out. If not, hold your peace, I guess.
Unless Ukrainian wants to, basically, SGONs, they're not giving PDS a blank blanket of protection because that would just be wrong. At the end of the day, we are a registered business. We do have a role play aspect, but I guess the SGMs are here to make sure people don't overstep and act like fools.
Hmm.
And you citing legislation that is older than any of our grandparents in an attempt to force us to do something for the first time that's not been done in NISA history. Because again, as I said, George is scared of us. It is that. It is these two individuals in the new Department of State acting like fools, and there's nothing other than to say.
Hmm. Okay, I do understand that we're gonna have a White House, uh, the White House Chief of Staff James M. Marshall on. Apologies if I butchered the name. We're just waiting on the Chief of Staff to join. Let's see. Try to see.
He's here, John.
Oh,
He's in
he
the
is.
call.
He is. Okay, there you are. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Right, so I'm aware you have the comments from the DOS taking action on the Platinum Defense Solutions. Based on what you heard, do you have any response on behalf of the White House?
I think it's interesting that the SGM would cherry pick what laws we can and can't enforce. I mean, this is a role play group, and we've been operating on a set of laws that our Congress has not ratified since NUSA's inception. So I just think it's kind of interesting that we're just now going to cherry pick what laws we can and can't enforce, simply because it's inconvenient to certain interests here.
All right. 103, do you have a response to that?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think the best person to make a response to that would be one of the SGMs or Ukrainian. What I'll say is to each their own opinion. Everybody could think what they want to think about a law, but ultimately we don't own this group. We don't have full control over this group. And they do. The SGMs own this group. They own the assets. They have final say. And if you don't like it, there's always a door right for you.
Hmm. Could I respond to that?
Yeah, so if we're going to resort to the argument that, SGM has the final say, no one's disputing that. I'm not disputing that. It's a matter of should and shouldn't. They shouldn't cherry pick what we can and can't do. A government, the whole point of this group is to simulate government and to simulate laws, the legislative branch, and everything that encompasses American civics. So when they step in and intervene on a decision by the State Department, who has every legal right to issue that directive, it's kind of sus given the circumstances surrounding that directive and who it affects specifically.
Well, here's what Ukrainian has said. And I know George is also currently working on this, per what individuals have said. If you all are sorry, my brain isn't working. You all are nitpicky about them being nitpicky about laws. You can always go to Congress and get them to choose a set of active legislation to 100% be enforced in USA. And Ukrainian even mentioned that, and that's not a route you all have taken yet. And at the end of the day, if you take that ancient law to Congress and get them to 100% pass it as active legislation right now, we will 100% abide by it. If you, John, would bring a Dremmy up for me, please.
Yes, I will.
Yeah,
I don't
please.
even see what the problem is with this particular policy. It doesn't seem to affect you if what you say is true about not contracting with foreign entities, because this is what this directive is about. It's prohibiting you from unilaterally contracting with foreign nations.
But let me ask you this, because you're the white. Can I rebuttal that and ask him a
Go
question,
ahead.
John?
Go
Is that
ahead.
okay?
Do whatever.
So, my question here is, why is the George Godsent campaign so concerned with what we are doing? Because this has never been an issue. Blackwater, even Georgia's security agency for a brief amount of time, all operated overseas with other international relations. But the second it concerns PDS, which is led by former USF leadership, the George administration has done everything in their powers to push us under the rug. So why now, when it comes to PDS, is this being brought up?
We see this formation of your a quote unquote security company as being disingenuous, because I think it's just a facade, a cover for what it really is, a private military
What's that?
firm.
And that's at the end of the day, that's not our intentions. We are first and foremost a security agency. And the second that you are able to provide valid, hardcore proof, feel free to prosecute us. But until then, don't give out misleading facts.
The only reason why you're labeled a security agency is because the Department of Commerce bought that load of bullshit and gave you a permit.
Yes, but whose job is it to do that? Your job or their job?
I'm sorry, rephrase, explain.
Whose job is it to regulate them? Your job or their job?
Regulate commerce?
To regulate them as a company.
Commerce.
Right.
And they serve at the pleasure.
Okay, fine.
But that wasn't really a great answer. You go back to the fact that you say you think there's a lot of misdirection behind what we're doing, but everything that you all are doing seems so targeted to us that at this point, if you're going to
Which I
target
mean,
us,
I could say the same to you, though.
we have been working with, as I said, we are trying to let bygones be bygones. We have reached out to other businesses. We've reached out to municipal agencies. We're working on contracts. At this point, we are trying to move away from the federal government and let George live out his term, however long that may be. This term, next term, who knows? But it's things like this that tonight your administration keeps, not your, let me correct that, the administration you serve as, and continues to try to bring us and PDS back into the spotlight when we're trying to move on, and it's a common occurrence. So let me ask you this, why can't you all let bygones be bygones and everybody goes their own separate way?
Hey, just a quick thing, John. I'm about to rejoin on my computer. If you don't mind bringing me back up.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I do want to take this time while we have a little break. Just had someone
Oh, there we go.
who DM'd me if I would be interested in endorsing someone for the House of Representatives elections coming up. The short answer is no. I am legally prohibited from doing that, so don't even bother. If it has to do with anything in regards to politics, like me actively doing politics, or asking any legal questions, you might as well just stop there. Back to our regular program.
I have one more question for you, James. Almost 50% of the stuff this administration has pushed out in the past few days has been targeted and focused on private security agencies, or specifically PDS. Why are we seeing all this stuff from various executive departments in the president's office in regards to us, but we're not seeing the president working on fixing his fractured agencies and departments and military? We're seeing focus
Listen,
on private security.
I vehemently disagree with your characterization of this administration's efforts. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. We don't publicize every single decision that is made. We publicize things that need to be publicized when it's appropriate and when there's actual progress to announce. I've been working all day and since yesterday on reforming what you described as a fractured administration. There are issues in this administration. I know that. Everyone knows that. That's why I'm here. I'm here to fix things, and that's what I've been doing. There's going to be updates on that in the coming days. But right now, I'm actively working on it. You know, Rome
So-
wasn't built in a day.
I just I need to bring something up. So I've spoken to the rest of the people that are relevant in this conversation, and your law that you're bringing up regarding PDS and this shit from Abraham Lincoln was present when that fucking law went into was passed. You're not using that. You can go through Congress. You can do an actual legislative action to create a new law and actually regulate this the proper way, or you cannot do it at all. Look, I've been talking to George every single day since he was elected. I will communicate with George. I will make sure that he knows that you guys will not do this shit. I don't.
Oh, so a
care.
law that's antiquated
I do
is now
not-
the justification to overstep?
I do not give a fuck right now.
Oh, you clearly don't.
No, you're right. I don't because I'm not going to let you use something that is completely irrelevant in the context of the role play. It's a role play. Why can't you just use your fucking time, go to Congress, get a law passed? It's not that hard. BCC 10 is in the chat. He said he would do it for you in 5 minutes. Why is that hard?
Here's another thing is that you have to realize that when you guys are attacking this group of individuals, you're taking a good chunk of the community that's pretty damn active, and you're attacking them, and essentially you're going to try and push them out of their foxhole, and we're going to be left. Well, I think the effort is on George's behalf is to have us jobless. I think that's what the effort is, and
Absolutely no. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I think Ukrainian and the other SGMs save that that have that perspective as well.
I think you have it wrong. I have absolutely no problem with you guys regulating PDS. I don't give a shit.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I just know that the way that you're doing it right now is completely wrong, and you're acting like a complete idiot while you're doing it. Just go the proper way. That's all we're asking you to do.
Ukrainian. That wasn't my point. Our initial step before going into PDS was just to go to a different country, and we spoke to Golaris, and we spoke to Dilias, and we spoke to God knows how many people.
I'm not attacking PDS. I'm attacking the fucking retards in the White House right now.
I know. I'm just trying to say. I don't think you got my point. Is that the thing is that we were going to go to a different country, and the reason why we started PDS mainly is so we can preserve our existence in this community and still have fun.
It's a great idea.
Right. That's the whole reason it was started.
They can.
You're better than that.
They
Okay.
can regulate
I mean-
your fucking overseas whatever they want. You guys are getting a team in DC and they could cope. All right, I'm going to sleep. Good night.
All right, so I want to go back before all this happened and just rebuttal what James said about the public statements and releases. So two things you said. It almost first off, let me before I respond to this, let me finish my entire point here. Number one, it almost makes it look like there's a lack of transparency between everything the government's doing. Number two, you said that when progress is made, you would be transparent, but there hasn't been much transparency recently. So it's almost hypocritical in you saying that there's been progress made, but then you say if progress has been made, there'll be transparency, but there has been no transparency. So in reality, is there progress actually being made?
Progress is being made, as I said earlier. I just got into this post, as you know, but I don't think it's feasible for this administration to announce every bit of progress it makes. That would be a lot of announcements. I'd prefer us to be able to use our press briefings and press releases as an opportunity to announce large groups of progress that we make over time in this administration. I'm currently working on an executive branch assessment examination of every single department and agency. I'm going to figure out what department and agency rates in a satisfactory, unsatisfactory manner, and we'll make decisions based on that result.
Oh, any
No.
comments on it?
You
Well,
know,
I just
I,
joined.
s-
So.
I said what I had to say. I believe there's a
I
lack
think-
of transparency and there's a lack of stuff happening behind the scenes, and I think more should be given to the public because there's already so much mistrust in this administration. But if that's what the White House Chief of Staff, if that is his standpoint, that is his standpoint, and no one's going to change that.
I mean, if that's your sentiment, then that's your sentiment. I think we've been very transparent thus far. I think most of the people, the American people, can trust that this administration knows what it's doing. They put our trust in us thus far, considering the landslide victory in the previous election. I think that reflects the qualifications and competence of this president. You disagree clearly, given that you lost your job, and I suppose that's the natural response to things. But
hold up.
I disagree.
I need
Let's
to
not-
ask James, outside of Congress, what qualifications does George have? I want you to name 3 agencies he's worked for.
Qualifications
As
for
a
what? What are you
subordinate.
getting at there? Because
You can't claim that he is clearly qualified. Hold on.
Are you really suggesting that to
You
be
cannot
president of the
say
United
that
States,
he's-
need
you
to be a
cannot say he's
lifelong
fucking
bureaucrat
qualified.
and politician?
You can't tell me that he's clearly qualified and make that statement so strongly, and then turn around and not be able to name 3 agencies that he was just a functional team member on.
No,
He's
because
only been
I
in politics.
disagree-
He's only
I
ever
disagree
written
with the
policy and
premise.
tried to govern people.
I
So for him
disagree.
to
I
like-
disagree with
Very
the
quickly-
premise you're trying to make.
Mr. White House Chief of Staff, I just want to say we've not interrupted you. We ask that you let us finish. You serve as the head of the White House staff. We ask that while we're in this press briefing, or whatever you want to call it, you let us finish speaking before continuously interrupting us, because then nothing gets done and it turns into a squabble. So if you zip your lips and let Adremi or I finish speaking, then you can rebuttal, sure, and we'll do the same.
By
I
all
follow
means,
that.
enlighten me.
I'm giving that respect to you, James, as much as I can. Okay, I know I can fly off the panhandle, but that's only if I get interrupted multiple times and then I start to get into my rant. But anywho, as I was saying, in my fucking forever of knowing George, I've never known him to serve in any capacity outside of a political role at all. And I'm just gonna say this now: I've been a rep fucking 4 times. I've been a senator twice. I've held House leadership spots. I've held a Senate leadership spot, and none of those prepares me for president in any way, shape, or form. If I'm going to be completely honest, I think the president that's going to be elected should never be a fucking senator or a House of Representatives individual at all. And the reason for that is because of a lack of present experience in a working admin.
And-
How you explain how like that's two completely separate branches of government that you're going to be transitioning from. You're going from legislative to
April Fool's
executive
Day. I
to
hope
where
you-
you're going from legislative only
April
pretty much
Fool's Day.
policy
Where
making,
going
from legislative
to
only
April
pretty much
Fool's Day.
an actual
Going from
legislative
to
only
April
pretty much
Fool's Day.
position of power where you have control over actual roles with meaning to them, to meet with meaning to people. Also, additionally, some of these roles mean something to people. People put in hard work in the Department of State to sometimes someday become Secretary of State. Some people put in a fucking assload of work to become Secretary of Defense while in USM or other roles like that. And with this new admin coming in, there was no respect to that. I don't even know who the Sec State is. I don't know. I don't even know who the Sec Def is, other than the small amount of conversations I've had with him.
Let me add on to
Most
that.
of the most
Can I
most of the
respond?
cabinet we don't know.
Let me very quickly add on to that. You've gone, saying experience doesn't matter, James, or something of that sort. But you look at, to add on what Drummy said, his experience is pretty much just congressional experience. And you look at the fact he served, one of his big things that we discussed after he won, he and I personally, along with the former Joint Chiefs of Staff, is he had no experience in USM, and he would turn to these agency and department heads for advice. And it was not just with us, it's with the Secretary of State he fired, it's with other department heads who've already resigned and quit, the Deputy Secretary of Defense. He has no experience or qualifications in these relevant fields, and he started on, when he was elected, with going on about how he was going to look for the people who did, that had advice, to give him advice in those serving capacities, but he never has and never did, and he took advice from others who just do not have that experience, and nor does he. So at the end of the day, you say it doesn't, but in some sense that experience does matter, or else we wind up with the president removing these competent people for no reason.
Real quick, I will say, being in NUSA for so damn long, I've never seen Georgia in a position within USM or any federal agency, specifically state and Congress. So there's no experience outside of Congress that he's ever had.
Emperor's been here longer than me. I'm talking for 8 years of experience with George. Emperor's probably been here longer.
But yeah.
All right, can I respond?
Go ahead.
All right, so a lot was said here. Let's start with the first thing, which was what qualifications does the president have to be in his current post? I disagree with the premise that you're making, that he somehow needed to have this large amounts of experience working as a bureaucrat in the executive branch, or being a lifelong politician. That was never the intention behind who gets to be president or doesn't get to be president. The person that gets to be president is who the people selects. The person they entrust to run this country. That is the only decision that needs to be made, or the only premise that the presidency should be based around. I mean, the idea of the presidency belonging to the elite, to the lifelong politicians of the government, to the bureaucrats of the government, is simply absurd. It's an absurd idea.
Okay.
I disagree with that characterization 100%. Secondly,
Okay.
you mentioned you haven't heard of the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of State. Well, first of all, the Secretary of State, I've known for 10 years now. He's been in NUSA for many years and has served in the State Department for many years. He's been
What's his
Principal
prior
Deputy
name?
Secretary of
if you don't
State,
mind me asking?
Deputy Secretary of State. He's
What's his,
had.
like-
He's on a different account. His main account got banned.
Well, do you have the name though? Like
He's
that's
had many names. Names
Can
in
he-
NUSA. He's had his name was Superior Tier, Charles H. Trump, Frank Santarelli, Hoffman, Mancini. Like I said, he's had like 20 names. I can't remember all of them.
okay.
But I know firsthand, he's been in the State Department in NUSA specifically many different times under many different secretaries of state. I can't speak to the Secretary of Defense. I don't know them personally, but I just wanted to.
Nobody does. Nobody does, James.
I wanted to talk about the Secretary of State specifically because I know him. Now, that being said, I've defended this reformist agenda very aggressively. I've defended the idea that we need to bring in fresh faces. You claim that people, certain or most people in this group don't know certain members of the cabinet or this administration. I don't see the problem with that. I don't.
How
You
so?
don't see the problem with that?
How so?
No.
There's
Why?
people who have
Why
been.
do you have
Hold
to
on,
be
hold on,
notable to
hold
hold
on.
a position?
James, I'm gonna break this down for you, okay? I have been USM for 8 years and consistently. I've never held chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I've never held Secretary of Defense.
Okay.
The reason for that is because we had a bunch of big wig people like Alexander Fitzpatrick, Patriot Actual, Large Titanic, people like them around, right? Big people that were consistently filling that office, right? And ideally, right? And I don't think I'm going absolutely out of line here when I say 103. This is to you. I not the front runner for SecDef this term
You
in terms
were.
of experience and the backing of the Joint Chiefs and all that good shit. So
You were.
when you have people who have been in the running for these roles for 8 years and they come here with good ass plans, a banger fucking resume, has a backing already to where there's already going to be substantial amount of cooperation and people know how you operate in your role as Secretary of Defense. And then goes around everybody's expectations and throws some guy that only, okay, I'm sorry to fucking JJC that has been a Navy chief before and got a NAM. My bad. Okay, he was USM back in 2021. Oops. But outside of that, he's been a USM in other atmospheres that just, aren't exactly relevant here. And
How so?
sorry. What do you mean how so? So the USM here is a completely different dynamic than any sort of military on the outside of this group. So the way that we were foundationally started is that we started under GMF and we were our own solo entity, kind of like how Caviar's military is and all that good stuff, Volts' military, all that good stuff. And we merged into NUSA. So we started independent and we moved into NUSA. And then we started conforming to the like Congress and the president being a commander in chief and him actually being an elected person, and all that good stuff, and pretty much given the rundown of
How it operates.
the whole role play aspect of having been in
But if you were saying that we started independently, though, wouldn't the experience captured from running these other groups be essentially just as good as running this one? Because essentially you're gaining the same skills per se.
Well, no. And the reason why I say that, John, and I don't mean to discredit what you're saying, but the reason why I say that is because there is no other group in this entire platform, and I say this very conservatively, in this entire platform that has to answer to a elected Congress, an elected commander-in-chief, and people appointed over them that may or may not have experience over them, right? This is the only group that I've known or been a part of, because I've been a part of Caviar's USM, I've been a part of Volta's USM, I've been a part of all that good stuff. And the translatability between those two wildly separate communities is exceptionally minimal because of the just the dynamic that we have to run in
The
terms
dynamics,
of the USM.
you say,
And-
yeah, but wouldn't George ran on a reformist agenda, as you like to say, and that kind of included getting new people, obviously, into these positions. Is there anything
There-
wrong with getting
there's
more
just there's
people?
just some boats you shouldn't touch.
How so?
In my how so? Okay, you're good at asking questions, John. I like you.
I'm a journalist. What do you expect?
I know, right? But how so? Sorry, what was the question? I'm eating a milkshake right now.
Okay, so essentially, George ran on a campaign of reformists and getting new people into these leadership positions instead of just the same old people. So are you arguing that in this specific situation that there shouldn't be new people running, or
Well, that's the thing. That's what I was preaching earlier. I would be a new face in the SecDef. The general. Well, I'm not. Now people know who the fuck I am because I'm up here almost every night. But but like I would have been a new face by technicality. Sure, I've been in USM for a long time, but I've never been SecDef. I've never held that role. It'd be a completely different learning curve for me. I mean, in Large Titanic can accredit to that. It's a completely different learning curve. He was a great fucking mentor while he was around and all that good shit. Sorry, I'm getting kind of been drinking a little bit too, but not too heavy. Not like Rick.
you
Fucking
driving
alcoholic.
tomorrow?
Am I driving tomorrow?
Yeah.
I gotta go to work tomorrow, man. I gotta report in. But anywho, as I was saying, the reformist ideal is great and all, and I completely advocate for it. I'm one of the advocates for that. I believe there should be new faces within reason.
Different reason. How so?
Lord have mercy, John. The houseos. People who have relevant experience to this community that have given consistent time and effort into this community, like actually been here, not
But
taking a
wouldn't-
3-year hiatus.
But wouldn't then, if they had like that 3-year hiatus, wouldn't they still bring that experience that they had when they were here like 3 years ago into this group?
I'm
So they-
saying
essentially
3 years ago we had Paul JKL as the group ownership, right?
True,
and it was a
but-
completely different like ordeal. I mean, let's be honest, he was kind of inactive.
But things haven't really
and
changed
it
that
was-
much.
time-
I just want to chime in real quick. You said that we need to bring in new faces within reason. Don't you think that's kind of subjective, though? I mean, what you consider is within reason may differ from what I consider is to be reasonable.
Okay, let me break it down this way. What I believe is within reason. When you go to hire a director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, you hire somebody that has the credentials, the experience, and the background, and has been actively serving within that apparatus for a good chunk of time. 103 was made the head, 103 was made head of the military with 4 months in service, and he gained the trust and the confidence of the people around him enough to recommend him for the role, and he got it. So
All right, well, I'm a
I
former
He's a new
think
face.
same thing.
I'm a
When-
former.
Go ahead.
I'm
Go
a
ahead.
former director. I'm a former director of the FBI, and I previously served as Assistant Attorney General, not as a senior executive in the bureau. In fact, most directors of the FBI in real life were never career agents of the bureau, but were career officials in the Department of Justice working in the private sector before chosen to run the FBI.
all FBI agents are lawyers. All of them. Every single one of them. All of them have a law degree.
All
IRL?
You can check that.
3,000?
You can check them. You can check them. Yes.
I don't.
Crit-
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, not 33,000 members of the bureau have JDs.
No, well, not that. Isn't that the fucking like? I don't know. I don't know shit about
A
law.
law degree
but,
is a Juris Doctorate.
but from when I was briefed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation during a recruitment scenario event, because I'm active duty military, they like to pick people who have active security clearances. They came to us and they tried to recruit us, but they pretty much said you have to go to college first and get something relevant to enforcing law and being a lawyer in some aspect.
So possibly criminal justice degree. But
Maybe.
that they can also get degrees in anything related to psychology or sociology, civics.
Sure. But you have to have a degree and all that good stuff. Anywho, again, I worked in the FBI very limitedly in this community. I was in charge of IO and the NSB. And that's about it. But anywho, in terms of within reason, people who it's like we have to have that separated divide between here and IRL. Because let's be honest, fucking Mitch McConnell's wife was made Secretary of Transportation. Like, all right, cool. That maybe was a bonehead move, but like, I'm sure you would gain the respect of those departments more if you selected the people that were, I won't say relevant, but like
Within the
have
department, you
experience
would
in
say?
those fields and are continuing to serve that department. All that good stuff. Love you, Rick. But yeah,
Anything
that
else
would
to
be
say?
my definition of what's the word? Pick within reason.
Why don't we go to the phone line, see if we have any
Line.
see if we have anyone. Oh, before we do, I do want to bring up the press secretary who apparently wants to come up. Not the press secretary. What am I on about? Press secretary is not even on. Lucky Van Nick, apparently. We'll get to your questions from
Oh
Okaski and
boy.
Astro, but make it quick
Oh
because
boy. Let's see
you
what
know what,
Lucky has to say. James, I am going to say this, though. I think you're a fantastic person to debate with. I like you.
Astro, go ahead.
You're great. You're great,
Okay.
dude.
Hello?
Thank you.
Okay.
You're good too.
So
Thank you.
my question is for James. Um, so bringing in people who are new to, I guess, complex places like USM and like Department of State, what good does that do for the rest of NUSA? Because
I think it brings fresh, innovative, and creative ideas. I think it's a chance for that department to grow beyond where it was previously under failed leadership. I think new people bring newer opportunities that were not there previously. You can say that there are more cons than pros. I don't really agree with that, but that if that's your opinion, fine. I respect that. But at the end of the day, we have a chance to grow NUSA. We have a chance to achieve new opportunities and new heights by bringing in new people. And also, it encourages and incentivizes people to join this community and to rise up because they know they have a chance to achieve a particular post that they want. And it's not going to same recycled elitists of the community.
Well,
okay,
I mean,
is
hold on. Okay.
sorry, is would you call like the people who came before George's administration in USM like Large and Matthew Code leadership?
I'm sorry, repeat that. I was responding to someone.
So you said failed leadership. Like, would you say Large and
I was
Matthew?
particularly addressing the previous leadership of the State Department.
Oh, okay. Okay, misunderstood. Okay.
Just want to say, love you, Ariam.
Hurry up with this.
Well, what's the Speaker of the House want? Okay.
We can't have that here. We are running on a no royalties thing. Oh,
Absolutely.
Kudaski, you're live.
I am back.
I think he's server muted.
Did I server mute?
I think he's server muted. All right, you
No,
need
he's
to
not
unmute
server
yourself
muted.
now, Uki.
It's not
No,
now,
he was
was.
server muted.
Hello? Alright, listen. Alright, listen. If you bring new faces in, bro, you can get new innovative ideas, bro. And listen, bro, I'm a new face hire, bro. You know what I did? Have my Senate term? You know what I did? I chat
What?
GPT the whole things, bro. Listen, my whole bills are chat GPT, bro. Like, you could chat GPT your whole things, bro. Like, just think about it, bro.
You use
I
chat.
said my argument.
You
Yeah,
use Chat GDP for your bills.
bro. Exactly, bro. Yes.
Damn,
Bro,
I
you know
couldn't
that
tell the
war?
difference.
You know that war against C, bro? I use ChatGPT, bro. I was fucking clueless when I wrote that shit, bro. I fucking use ChatGPT, bro. I know, like, you, bro. How do y'all people, like, do that, bro? Like, how do y'all do that, bro? Like, come on, bro.
What,
Originality.
write documents?
Like, exactly, bro. Like, bro, like, you gotta
Huh?
use ChatGPT, bro. There's no way, bro.
I don't. You can chat GPT every document I've ever written. I've never
Hold on,
fucking used that
let me
shit.
show you my document real quick, bro. I use ChatGPT on that shit, bro. Hold on.
Wow.
And it somehow got no nays on it, bro. I don't know how, but I respect you for that, bro.
Wow. Crazy admission from a
New face.
elected representative.
Oh,
Yo, hold on. I
James.
got it. Everybody look at General, bro. Bro, how did nobody notice that was ChatGPT, bro? Low key though.
James, I do want to say this to you. You say yes in regards to like bringing in new faces and showing that people have the opportunity to rise and grow and all that good stuff, and shouldn't probably have the same elitists take over the role. I do agree with you in that fact, absolutely, but it shouldn't take giving brand spanking new babies to the community cabinet jobs. You know, I mean, I feel like that's kind of extreme reformist
I
ideals.
wish I could say I agree with you, but I would be lying. I think as long as they have relevant experience in some capacity
You're
to do
telling
that
me.
job,
You're telling
and
me.
as long
Bro, James
as
and
they
Junior,
are
bro,
legally
can I read those,
qualified to hold that office, I don't
bro,
see
they
the
just
issue.
need ChatGPT,
You're
bro. They just
telling
need
me
ChatGPT, bro.
that a man who can only credibly say he's ever risen to a '06 colonel in a different group is qualified for Secretary of Defense.
Contradicting yourself here, Mr. Chief of Staff.
Actually, he is qualified. I don't. I
How?
mean, I know you
How?
disagree, but I'm going to
How?
go back to a
We've seen
previous
his
argument.
resume. We've dug deep into his
Okay.
into his background. We've done almost every fucking check you can think of on him. That's when we were Joint Chiefs of Staff and when we wanted to meet our new incoming Sec Def. We did a
John,
whole lot of shit of investigating, and we went deep. And the most we could see that he had the highest rank he could have had was colonel
All
in
right.
these big
if
I'm not.
U.S. Army groups.
I'm going to be transparent. I'm not going to pretend like I know the ins and outs of the military or the defense department because I don't. So I'm going to just, before I actually respond, I want to first ask you a couple questions so
Sure.
that I can be a little more informed.
You must thank
Can
tonight's
you-
sponsor as well.
Um,
Joking.
could
Go
you
ahead.
also could you inform me of the scope of authority the Secretary of Defense has over the branches of the armed forces?
Do you want my off the top of my head like response, or do you want
Yeah,
a
that would be
coordinated
fine.
one? So, off the top of my head, the Secretary of Defense is responsible for advising the President on national security affairs, especially inside of his specific garnered department, and brief him on intelligence and military matters, especially on capabilities and readiness. He has the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which currently consist of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Coast Guard that currently report to Secretary of Defense, Acting Secretary of Defense. JJC, and pretty much their essential duties is to advise him and lead the branches into the best of their capabilities. And what I will say is that he is supposed to manage them with confidence and competence.
So
If I said that right.
on managing, are there any limitations to his
You are my
authority?
sunshine.
Any limitations? What do you mean?
Any limitations on what he can and can't do with respect to managing and overseeing?
The Joint Chiefs of
Each
Staff serve at
respective
the
arm.
pleasure. The Joint Chiefs of Staff serve at the pleasure of the President, not the Secretary of Defense.
Right. Okay. That's basically what I was getting at.
That
So,
doesn't mean. Hold on. That doesn't mean
gentlemen, I apologize.
Secretary of
real
Defense
quick.
can be like, on behalf of the President, you're fired.
right.
It has to be George.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Okay. So, I want to now move on to my response, which has to do with the fact that the Secretary of Defense has no insurmountable, complete 100% authority or autonomy over branches of the military. The Secretary of Defense is supposed to coordinate and work with the respective heads of the branches and the Joint Chiefs. Am I right? It's a coordinated effort. And the fact that you're trying to suggest that that can't be achieved because of his apparent limited time in the actual military is just a bit baffling to me.
I can't say that, because how is he supposed to make informed decisions to generals and joint chiefs and people who execute administrative and operational authority over their branches? How are you supposed to confidently receive orders from somebody that's never been in a position to do that?
Are you saying he's not intelligent enough to have the mental capacity to comprehend and
I'm not gonna-
understand information and
I'm not
the
gonna
advice
knock-
that given to him?
I'm not gonna knock his intelligence because I think James is an intelligent individual. What I am gonna say is that he lacks the experience to give those orders. He has never been in a position. He's never led a branch. He's never led a fucking combatant command. He's never led a fucking agency in NUSA. He's never touched anything in NUSA that's been higher than a fucking special agent in charge. I think that's the highest role he said, and an inspector general. He hasn't led a branch. He hasn't led that shit. He hasn't led an intelligence agency. So how can he competently and confidently and capably issue orders to these individuals when he is not informed or experienced enough to make those decisions?
No, but that's the thing. He can be informed enough. That is through listening to his peers and
If that's the
acquiring sound and logical
if that's the
advisement
basis
from qualified individuals, which even he is qualified. I still stand firm in that position.
if that's the case, then we could scrape any fucking roadkill off the side of the road and be like, hey, make sure you listen to these USM guys. But if they lose faith in you, expect them to not resign. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, have them advise. Or where the fuck did he go? I don't feel right
Gone.
responding to him without him
Reduced
being here.
to rubble.
Oh, he raised his hand.
Nice.
He's down there.
Thank you.
I'd
Okay.
rather have him here.
Gummy, quiet. Thank you. Two things. First off, John, I sent you JJC's resume in DMs. If it's his new resume, if you want to share that with the public. Secondly,
I'll drop the link.
okay, I think, it's getting to the point where this was intended to discuss the merger and the DOS incident, and we have yet again drawn back to the not even regarding PDS now. It's the same thing with the Secretary of Defense nominee, and I think we've discussed that almost every night for a week now. So
I know, it's fun.
Let's move on to something else, Adremi.
Well, if you guys are ready to move on, I'm ready to
PDS.
pop off.
Let's discuss the DOS thing, because we never really got to finish that conversation as we went back into the Secretary's
I apologize for going on that rant, but I am a very passionate individual about the Department of Defense.
We all are.
Apologies
We
to
all
the
love
viewers.
this Lego group, and we care for it so much for no reason
Hey,
at all.
fuck you, John. All right?
Hey, fuck you too.
Kidding. I love you, bro.
Same.
I might as well be your co-host at this point. It doesn't even matter
Maybe,
what y'all
yeah.
are talking about.
I do want to
Anywho.
ask a question, James. I want to ask a question regarding this DOS thing, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So we've had, and this is not me coming from PDS, not me coming from, this is me coming from an outside opinion here. You all have said, the Deputy Secretary of State has pointed out this legislation and has gone and said what he said, and it was revoked by Ukraine. Yes, we've gone over that. Now, the Deputy Secretary of State has continued to say there will be action taken against PDS and against these individuals, including national security action, prosecution. Can you tell us what, after SGMs have stepped in and this is continuously going on, what might that action against PDS look like?
I can say this. I'm not going to engage in petulance and regurgitate that type of rhetoric. I'm going to comply with the SGM, and I'm going to do exactly what he advised. I'm going to go through Congress. The State Department won't take action. All right. I will see to that. 2, I will say from a policy perspective, the State Department does, in fact, have every right to regulate what or who American companies do business with overseas. That is very critical to their job as the State Department in the government.
Is
They
Platinum
deal with
even doing operations overseas? That's my big question.
Whether they are or not is irrelevant to me.
Yes. Blackwater is in 6 different countries in Africa and 3 in the Middle East. Pinkerton Detective Agency is also in 2 different countries in Africa and I believe 3 countries in Europe and 2 countries in the Middle East. Yes, we do operate on foreign soil.
At the end of the day, if you have to have a permit to operate domestically, then you have to have a permit through the State Department to operate internationally. If you're a U.S.-based company,
they have to have a permit via the country they are going to. That's the ground.
That's up to that country, but I
No,
also
and
stand
I'm
firm that
saying
you
that
need one through the State Department, and
Very
that's
No.
exactly what we're going to work on
Jeremy,
legislatively.
very quickly. And at the end of the day, Ukraine going to shut that down. And I do hope you get the Deputy Secretary of State to back off in the meantime. But in the event you all do get legislation passed through Congress that explicitly states we need to get that certification or license from the State Department, we will gladly abide by that. But right now there is none. So the
it's
second it
not.
is passed, the Deputy
And that's
Secretary.
fair. And
It's
that's
not
fair.
it's not the Department of State's fucking place anyway, and I'll tell you
It is,
why.
though.
It isn't. It isn't because our private entity has nothing to do and does not represent the United States of America, of which you and the Department of State are responsible of representing, which is the government of the United States of America. We, as
So
a
it
private
has nothing
entity,
to do
do
with
not
the State Department.
represent
Let me ask you this.
them.
If, let's say there were no regulations at all, like right now, basically, with regard to operating internationally. So if you were to say contract with and do business with an adversary of the United States, say a Middle Eastern country, and you
Yeah.
go over there and you commit, I don't know, and break international law,
A bazillion war
the
crimes.
State Department
Okay, let
shouldn't
me
have
ask you a
been able.
question
No, hold
then.
on. The State Department shouldn't have been able to prevent that by declining your request to contract with that nation.
No, I
So,
don't believe so because we're a
well,
private entity and
Jeremy,
we live in a great capitalist nation and all that good stuff. And a perfect example of this, if you're familiar with the Russia-Ukraine war, is the Wagner Group. Every time the Wagner Group fucks up, guess what happens? They call them out. They say the Wagner Group does it, not fucking Russia. That's stupid.
That's not true. That's not
hold
true.
up. I'm going to
Because
correct
the head of the Wagner Group was known as Putin's butcher. Anything they did, they blamed on Putin.
Okay. I want to very quickly just correct Jeremy there, in regards, and I will say, there is legal precedent, that, you know, United States companies, United States security agencies, United States paramilitaries cannot operate under for or supply arms, personnel, anything of that sort to countries that are considered adversaries of the United States, and
Yeah,
that's obviously something we would follow.
I mean,
You would never see us work with, North Korea, China, Russia, and RUN.
no shit.
And
Yes.
that is so,
But
there is a limit to who we would work with.
But you know what happens if we do end up going to work with or for those nations is the commerce or business registration gets revoked for violating ethics codes. I was DepSec DoCal. I know everything about this. All right, because I believe I'm the one. I think I'm the one that certified Blackwater, some of that nature, a security company or whatever the fuck. But I was DepSec DoCal. I know everything about the ethics code and all that good stuff. And if we were to go work for a foreign adversary that clearly does not like the United States and wants to diminish the interests of the United States, then you would revoke their business license. And then they can't operate as a business at all within the United States. And then it's whatever the fuck they want to do after that point. If they want to go
Can
to
you at
fucking
least
Germany
say,
or
but
whatever the fuck.
as of right now, a business here could do that if they wanted to?
No, because again, if I was DepSec DoCal secretary, or sorry, my bad, DoCal deputy secretary still, I would revoke their license if they were working with an adversary country, and then they can choose to go wherever the fuck they want to go afterwards, but they wouldn't remain on U.S. soil or operate on U.S. soil.
But that is an administrative decision that's at the discretion of the department. It's not something that's in law that would mitigate that possibility.
Here's what.
It's a reactionary response to a problem that could have been proactively prevented.
So you're telling me that you want the Department of State, with whatever goon that the president puts in office, let's say that the president clearly does not like PDS, right? Okay, George does not like PDS. We all know that for a fact. Oh, well, let me instruct my sex state to declare that,
Sex
Paladin.
Go ahead, continue.
Let me declare that Paladin Defense Solutions is a national security problem and that they shouldn't be able to operate in foreign soil. Now we just have to fucking suck it up? Because damn, I guess the DOS said no. No, that's not how it works. How do you think for fucking countries like Apple go to fucking China and operate and shit like that?
The
Or how do
Cuban
you think
embargo,
people,
too.
You know, that
all that
hasn't
good shit.
happened because you and I both know the president needs to show cause and reason to declare an entity a national security threat.
My
That's
God, he has
that's
shown little cause,
that
little
is
reason for almost
that
every
is
action
not
he's
gonna
taken
happen.
as president. So you're basing that off of very, oh my God, very little premise when we have, I mean, direct fucking conflict with him, and it's public and it's knowledgeable and everybody knows that. And the only reason that we are pushing for this, because mind you, before we existed, you know who existed? Blackwater. Didn't hear anything about fucking Blackwater at all, without a doubt. Nothing. We didn't
Okay,
start
but that
trying to
also
implement
goes back to
policies
my original
and
point.
nothing else. So, and yeah, inform me of your original point, because of course I wasn't here at the
My
start.
original point was that we've always had security companies, and that isn't the issue. My issue is we don't see this, you guys labeling yourselves as a security company, to be genuine. It's disingenuous. We think, in fact, we know this is an attempt to operate as a private military company under the guise of a security organization.
Okay, well, let me ask you something. What does the military provide the United States of America?
Security
Security.
services, essentially.
Wild. So, how is that a mischaracterization? If we say
So,
that we're security,
you
well, we
are-
can call USM security,
No.
right? I mean, yeah.
No.
I mean,
I think
on
you're
top of that-
stretching that definition a bit too broadly.
Well, I
mean-
don't think it's the government's place to tell us what we can and can't do with our company. That's the line that I draw. Right? Is that we have all these regulations and all this shit about random other stuff, and
The
we
U.S.
have
government
security.
regulates companies all the time. We're not
We're
a laissez-faire capitalist country.
We kind of are.
But what I'm trying to say is that you can't, because the Department of Commerce labeled us as a security company, right? That's what we applied for. That's what we plan on doing. That's what we
Though
plan
I
on
don't know
doing.
why in God's green earth they did that, but continue.
But that's what they did, and that's what we applied to be as, and that's what we plan on operating to be as. Like that's our sole purpose right now. Now, whether that is being a security deployment in fucking to protect oil fields in fucking Egypt, it's none of your fucking business as the government. It really isn't. If we want to go overseas and protect oil fucking wells, and maybe terrorist attack or some bullshit,
Well,
we'll
what if
take
it's
care
the
of them.
U.S.'s interests to have their own group do it?
You will never, I have never, because this is coming directly from the mouth of somebody that's been in those locations physically in the world today, IRL. I've not seen a uniformed troop protect an oil well. It's all been contractors, security companies, and private military organizations like Blackwater. Just saying. I've been there. I've seen it. So,
We all have.
I mean, it's usually people, who are contracted out via a security organization or a private military organization like Blackwater, Pinkertons, etc., so on and so forth.
Anything else to say from both of you or all of you?
I kind of want to avoid going in circles, and I'm afraid if I say something else, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well,
So if there's any other questions for me,
We're all going
Here's-
in circles.
Here's one of my final remarks is that I believe wholeheartedly that the government should have very minimal oversight and fucking governance over what private companies do. It's a
Within
free
reason.
fucking country.
of
Within
course.
reason. Yes, you're absolutely right. If, let's say, we decide, oh yeah, let's go fucking fight for China against the U.S., abso-fucking-lutely. Raw dog the shit out of us with fucking criminal procedures and a congressional, injunction or whatever the fuck, all that good shit, whatever you can do on that behalf, right? But until that happens, I mean, okay. I mean, that's how it should be, is that it should be reactionary. Because you shouldn't expect a company to go fucking betray you. You should be able to have a little bit of trust in them.
But
And
my point
again,
is that they shouldn't
at the
have the
start-
legal ability to do so.
It's again, none of the fucking government's business who we sign
Well,
contracts
no doubt you
with.
believe that, but I'm going to have to disagree.
Okay. I mean, that's how all these companies, succeed and all that good stuff. Is that we have very limited oversight from the government outside of like ethical issues. And like I said, if you launch an inquiry via the Department of Commerce or the Department of Labor, since we want to split that up for some reason,
I don't know why.
I don't know why either, but if either of them launch an inquiry about some form of ethics concern where we fucking committed war crimes over in a separate country or some bullshit, or blew up Africa or some shit, I don't know. Absolutely. I'm gonna tell you now. If we do that, I'll tell you to fucking revoke our license. Like that's no problem. I'm internal affairs for PDS. It's my job to prevent that from happening. It's my job.
So you're PR as well, essentially.
No, I'm not PR. I'm just the candidate that they decide to put up most of the time because I know how to public speak.
We all did. I took a class on it. I'm tutoring people on it too. So what makes you so special about it?
Well, I mean, I guess people just like Ola German Cross over in PDS. But my job is IA. My job is to make sure that people don't commit ethical violations and war crimes and all that good stuff if we are contracted to a foreign nation. So I would happily work with like the Inspector General of the Commerce and Labor Departments, 100%. Report any sort of issues and all that good stuff. Report, HR complaints and all that good stuff. I'll do that. Sorry, Rick. That's 2. But I just don't think that we should be physically stopped because I don't know. DOS kind of has an inkling about this country, and it's not even in our best interests as former Joint Chiefs of Staff and people who still want to commit to this community to do something like that and be a part of an adversary force. Just saying. Not smart on our behalf.
Well, that's comforting.
I mean, you're seriously concerned that former Joint Chiefs of Staff, people who served this country for a combined probably over fucking 60, 70 years, I know we haven't existed that long. I'm just compiling to the years that we've all had together, right? But, and you think we're just gonna fucking, fuck Noosa, fuck this guy.
Well, the circumstances of your mass resignations kind of
Okay, our resignation
your dedication, but that's just my opinion.
Our dedication to this country is unfucking wavering. That's why we're still here. That's why we did PDS to begin with, is to prove that we are still willing to stick around in the community and, be around even after, we've had issues with the place that is our quote unquote home. We're still willing to stick around, and for you guys to assume or think or regulate stuff because you guys think we're going to go operate for a foreign nation against the United States is wild. We have more of a commitment to this community than we ever do in any sort of fucking, any row nation anywhere.
And why is that?
It's because this is where it's where we feel at home. It makes the most sense to us. Some of us may be Canadian, some of us may be American, some of us are maybe fucking British, but when we all come here, we have a sense of community here. And especially when you have a group of individuals like myself and Rick and
You're
Tactical
all
Dank,
essentially.
all that. Yeah, this is what we do. We don't want to run off to a different place just because we have beef with a fucking president. All right. We'll resign from our jobs. We don't want to work under him, but we still want to serve the United States. 100%.
So what if a president who essentially agrees with you comes into office? Would you still lead it? Will
Still lead
Paladin be
PDS?
allowed? Will Aladdin still be allowed? Paladin or whatever you call it?
Paladin.
Will
Paladin still be around? If the president wants to install us all back into the military and put us back into the foundation where we belong, quite frankly, because that's our home, then absolutely, without a doubt. But just like how I said in a past interview, if the president lacks confidence or trust in one of his Joint Chiefs, he has every right to, fire him. And if why shouldn't we resign if we have a lack of trust or confidence in the president? We have every right to do that. We shouldn't have to stay in a role because, well, you're in charge. I mean, you're the Joint Chief, you're a general. you shouldn't leave because of a president. You're absolutely right. I agree with you. But when he's putting such a pin in all of our progress, I mean, we have to. So if a future president comes around and says, "Hey guys, I'm gonna offer you all your jobs back. I'm gonna put you guys in slots that fit what you guys need in the military, using your experience and precedence, because that's what the military needs, and that's what I preached to George, was continuity and longevity of people, is how the USM survives." But he didn't listen to that. So, but yeah, so that's kind of where we sit, where we stand today. Will Paladin Defense exist for the long run? Don't know, but it's where we sit today. And, I think James, in my personal opinion, and this is me being the guy that everyone in the military knows to be an absolute dickhead about standards, I'm not going to let them commit war crimes. I'm not going to let them do stupid shit. And if they do something like that, I'm not going to fucking stay at all. You can already count on me fucking leaving if they go fucking root for China or some bullshit. So,
And we're out of time by that matter. Thank you for everyone who's talked. Your
Good
insight was
talk.
pretty valuable. Let's just try not to have any more drama because I don't really want to be the guy
drama.
that y'all can vent to.
dude, I fucking breathe. I breathe this shit.
We're back
I'm gonna keep the buck.
whenever. Good night. Like I said, we're back whenever. Good night.